showing up again. This is Seattle Connected, the show that connects you with entrepreneurs, business people, movers and shakers in our community, letting you know who they are first, before they become household names, which we know they soon will be. Today's guest is a household name, I guess, if you're in the Seattle area. She's always making moves. Every time I see her, she's actually moving, making steps towards progress. That's what she does. She is I would say, an advocate for justice, fair rights, equality, equity, very important, and making sure that everyone is treated with respect. And if not, we have to make changes for that. Please welcome my friend, Ashwant. What's up?
Hello. That was thank you for the intro. I didn't know all that about me.
Yes, you should do your research.
I should do my research on me. I should.
Did you read the book on you? It's unauthorized. I wrote it a while ago, but yeah.
No, you gotta send me a free copy.
Yeah. Well, it's on Amazon if you want to purchase one. No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm selling your life story to you. So welcome. I was going to call you Ash for short for your name, Ashwan, but so forgive me for saying that because I know you as Ash since I met you, and I'd say, hey Ash, you'd be everywhere, just like your what was your email address? The everywhere
everywhere I go there I am.
Yes,
Instagram.
that's true. Yes,
it's true though. Everywhere I go there I am.
Yeah. So it's like, where's she at? But yeah, forgive me if I slip up from time to time saying that. But Ash, are you now? I know you are not from here originally, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You are from?
I'm from Fiji. So I was born in Fiji Islands, which is basically right on the equator, a little bit southeast of New Zealand. But it's latitude 20. I know that for some reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was born in Fiji, and then my family moved to California when I was 7. So that was in 1989, 1990.
Yeah, a couple years ago.
Yes, a couple years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Do you ever get a chance to go back to Fiji?
Not since I was younger. I haven't been back there since I was in 5th grade. So long time. My family's gone back since then. My parents went back last summer, I think it was sometime recently when they went back and visited, but I have not had the chance to go back for a while, and I keep thinking I need to do this. So
when are you gonna do it?
I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure. There's the politics there are a little bit it's a little up and down, so I'm not really sure. I'm just kind of like, I'll go when I go.
Yeah. So what brought you to Washington?
Oh, that's a long story.
It's a layered question.
It's a loaded question.
Yeah, come on.
So actually when I was 17, I left home. I actually ran away from home when I was 17. And that's a long story too, but I knew somebody up here in Washington. So it's by happenstance that I'm actually in Washington, because I was going to go to school in Pennsylvania. And so this was just on, I don't want to say pit stop, but this was the place where I knew somebody where I felt I could be safe, because I didn't feel safe where I was. So I came up to Washington then. Yeah.
And you've been here since?
Yeah, I did go to Pennsylvania. I went to school for a little bit there. I went to Bryn Mawr College. And and then I found out that school is really expensive.
It is.
Yeah, they want a lot of money.
Yeah, right. Yes, a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, it was pretty rocky at first, because I'm 17. I'm just out in the world by myself. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna go out there. I had $50 in my pocket, and then whatever a 17-year-old thinks is important to pack, So yeah, that's all I had. And I did have a grant for school, so I had a a financial based grant. But what happened was they needed my parents' income information.
Oh.
And I was smart enough to bring the previous year's taxes. I actually did do that. I brought a copy of their tax returns, because I knew they would want that. But then when it came to the next cycle, I was like, yeah, I left home. I don't have anything to do with home, and I have no connection with them. And the school was like, yeah, I don't know, like they didn't believe me. So I was like, okay. So they took my grant away, and I was like, well, I literally cannot pay for this. I'm already working 2 jobs and going to school, and I just couldn't do it. And then just a lot of mental stuff too, because
Yeah.
I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to deal with, here I am out in the world. Oh, there's all of these things that I got to take care of that I don't, I got bills, I got this, I got that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work and go to school. I don't really know anybody except like one person, and, they're back in Washington now, and I'm in Pennsylvania by myself. I hadn't really been on my own ever before, obviously. My parents were very protective when I was younger, and so I didn't really get exposed to the world a whole lot besides where I grew up, which was just, that there's a lot going on there too. So, yeah, so I'm just out on my own. It's like, well, I don't know, so I'm spiraling into like depression and like anxiety, and, and then dealing with the reasons that I ran away. There's reasons that I left home
Yeah.
at like 17. So I'm also dealing with that, but not really dealing with it because I don't know how to deal with that. So I don't know. I was seeing a psychologist at college. They assigned me one. Actually, they assigned me one, and she just kept prescribing antidepressants that were not working, and that was it. Like I wasn't really getting any sessions. It was just like, we'll try this, and then one of them made me hallucinate, and I called up the psychologist, and I was like, this is making me like see and hear things, and I don't think those things are there. And she's like, yeah, you should stop taking them. I was like, yeah, I did. I flushed them down the toilet, and I don't want to I don't want to do this anymore. And I just quit seeing her. I was like, no, this is not helping me.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was just like a lot going on. And then I couldn't pay for it, pay for school. And so I just came back to Washington and started working.
Yeah. We're glad to have you here. Yeah. You start working and you haven't looked back. I was thinking on the way here, we're always in such a rush for everything, as far as technology, as far as anything that comes out, it's always how can we eliminate some steps and make this even easier? And in a way, it can make you lazier in some instances, depending on what it is. But um, I read a study, it was saying about how people are getting even less activity just being at work because you don't even have to get up and walk to the fax machine.
Mm.
You don't have to walk to a copier. Everything's right at your desk. You don't have to do anything, like unless you're going to the restroom, but everything's like right at your hands, and that kind of eliminates the interaction that you would normally have with people at the water cooler or going into a break room. I had a job where my supervisor, he would tell everybody, come in. You're like, all right, we're going to have a team meeting. And then everybody would be on Zoom. And I'm like, or sometimes he'd be the one to not come. It was like, really? You're that guy, he's that guy. But yeah, just the things in life that kind of make you say, okay, well, is this really what life's about?
Mm-hmm.
Life's so short. So when you're young, you're like, I can't wait to be an adult. It's going to be awesome, be on my own schedule. I'm going to do whatever I want, eat what I want. And it's like so many other things in between that. Like by the time you get to that point, you don't even want to do those things. You're like, you know what? I just want some rest. I want a decent meal. I want to be able to pay my bills and not think, okay, I know I got paid yesterday, but how soon do I get paid again? Like you think about the simple joys in life. Like I look at my son and the things that get him excited and just going. I'm like, that's awesome. I want him to be able to hold on to that as long as possible. Because there's going to be a time when it's like, yeah, your happiness is really secondary. We need you to focus on our happiness or someone else's happiness first. It sucks to say it like that, but yeah. Now, Ashwant, I wanted to make sure I said it correctly too. So you're in the corporate world. You finished your college journey. You're in Washington. You're making all this money, just money left and right, right? Um, what was that transition like as far as going from living in California, leaving at such a young age, dealing with the experience that you did as a young adult on your own in college, all these variables, like I'm still trying to find my way, but I don't know where to find a map because there's no instructions on how to live life. Now you're in the corporate world. What was that like?
Oh, that was an interesting
Oh boy.
part of my journey. It really was. Yeah, I actually started because after I came back from Pennsylvania, I started working as an entry level game tester at Nintendo. So I tested games for a
Nice. Look
bit.
at
Yeah,
you.
so I was a contractor, and it's that it was a very it was an up and down experience because the way that games contractors get treated is a whole thing. Like it
Hmm.
is not good work environment. Like you're working a lot. You're working like 80-hour weeks. And sometimes they would like cut out because you're supposed to get overtime. So sometimes they would end your contract in a way where you can't collect as much overtime, but you're like, yeah, but I've been working 80-hour
Yeah.
weeks. And they're like, yeah, but this week you only work this. It's just it's a
Right.
thing. But did give me a lot of experience. So starting at entry level, because I don't have a college degree,
Mm.
so I started entry level. I did go to DigiPen for a little bit too, because I thought I would go become a game programmer. But
Mm-hmm.
that's how little I understood of economics, and understanding how money works. Because I tried to go to a school in Pennsylvania, and it was a private school. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
pay for it. So then I'm like, oh, I'll go to DigiPen. But DigiPen at that time wasn't accredited, so you can't get financial aid for it.
Mm.
And I listened to some credit card companies and used my credit card to pay for tuition and
Ooh.
books, which is a bad idea. Don't
Yo.
do that.
Yeah, don't do
Don't
that.
ever do that. But, so my credit crashed completely
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning. So I'm starting at entry level work, and I just kind of worked myself up. Um, yeah, about like almost 20 years. So game testing, software test engineer, and just, doing all these different positions, just climbing up. I left games for a little bit. I left Xbox for a little bit, and I went and I worked at Starbucks of all places. That's where I learned about 401k plans,
Mm-hmm.
because they actually give you one even if you work for part time.
Mm.
So yeah, so then I did that, gained some people skills, because you don't do people skills as a games tester.
No.
I was like, I don't know how to talk to people.
Right.
So yeah, so I left because there's a lot of politics as well, and being a female in a male dominated industry, which is games, and being a melanated female in a white male dominated industry, you go through some experiences. So I was
Yeah.
like, I'm just gonna take a break from this, do something else. Did Starbucks for a little bit, got promoted to shift supervisor, started thinking about actually moving up to like regional manager. And then I was like, no, I really miss technology. I miss
Yeah.
games, because that
Mm-hmm.
was my heart and soul.
Mm-hmm.
Games. That was something that I wanted to become a game programmer. I view games as art. It is something that drives culture a lot of times and also reflects culture. Like if you see the evolution of video games from the way that women and people of color have been represented in the early games, and now you look at games today, where you know women are represented very differently.
Right.
Like you look at a game like, I don't know if you're familiar with Tomb Raider,
Mm-hmm.
the evolution of that character
Lara
of being
Croft.
this, yeah, right,
Yeah.
and like looking at her evolution, like she's a more realistic woman
Mm-hmm.
now than what she was before, which was like programmed by just really creepy men. I'm just gonna say that because I mean, well, if you're designing women like that, it's creepy,
Yeah.
And the representation of the population is getting better too. So the games to me really meant a lot. It was very deep for me. It was my hobby. It was my career.
Okay.
And so I came back to games, and then I had to start back at entry level because I had left games for a bit,
Mm.
climbed back up, went into program or project management, which I knew nothing about, but I just kind of jumped into it, learned it. Yeah, and then that's actually what got me to, and I started getting up to like manager level and senior level, and then I'm getting like 6-figure salary, you know, and I was like, I am making 6-figure salary. I was
Yeah.
so excited. I remember the day that I got that. I was so excited. I was like, yes, I
Yeah.
made it. And yeah, so I kind of started settling into it, but this is about like around 2020, you know, and so the whole world changed in 2020,
Yeah.
as we all know. Like that was across the board. You know, it was Me Too, it was Black Lives Matter, it was uh, work and economy because COVID
Yeah.
happened then. We're all working remotely. To what you were saying about working virtually, you know, people started realizing that employees actually have a lot more power than we've been told we have. You know, we've been told, oh, you got to drive into work, you got to park, you got to pay for all this stuff. And now we're working from home and we're like, wait, hold up a second. So I don't have to drive all the way into work. I could have been doing my job from home this whole
Yeah.
time. So why am I coming? So I think people just started realizing also there was a whole movement in employee world as well.
Right.
Tables turning. So 2020 is happening, and being in corporate at that time, I'm already starting to see just how corporate is. Like, you know, you kind of start seeing the underbelly
Right.
of that world, and it's not pretty. Like you start realizing that it's a very cutthroat type of world to advance the things that people do to advance.
As well as robotic and kind of,
Yes,
I know what you're saying.
and
It's
you're
not
like
for
a gear.
everybody.
It's not for everybody. You're a gear in a big giant machine.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of faith and loyalty. The loyalty is an interesting psychological factor being in the corporate world because you don't see it when you're in it. But now that I'm out of it, I see my mental state has completely changed. Like I even feel like my brain shape has changed from leaving corporate. But when 2020 happened, DEI became a thing, you know, diversity, equity, inclusivity. And all these companies are now like, oh yeah, Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
We care.
It sounds
Black Lives
good.
Matter.
Yeah. It's the thing to say.
It's the thing to
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
And being loyal to the company, you're like, oh, we're doing good things. We're actually, yeah, we do care. See, we do. And then you start seeing some things where you're like, oh wait, this is just, you're just saying this to make, to just appease everybody
Yeah.
else.
It's just on
How
the
did you
surface.
believe it?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, how much do you actually believe it? And I remember one instance that really stood out to me that I actually called it out at one point within like our internal channels. But there was a young woman, an artist, a black woman, young black woman, and she drew murals, you know, and she was, I don't remember her name. I wish I could remember her name, but I don't remember her name. I remember the news article came out where a big corporation had asked her to create a Black Lives Matter mural. And she gave them her timeline. You know, she's an artist, she's busy. She's like, this is my timeline, I can do this, it's fine. But here's my timeline. And the company told her, oh no, we need you to do it while it's still relevant. And that comment, I'm like, while it's still relevant. And
While
that's,
it's
she
still
called it out too.
relevant.
She's like, while it's still relevant.
As if it's just some fad. It's like a fashion trend. While it's still relevant.
While Black Lives
Yeah.
Matter is still relevant, you're
Yeah.
like, wait, isn't it
Because
always
tomorrow,
relevant?
you know, I mean, for right now, they're relevant.
But right now, we need this
tomorrow-
mural now
Yeah.
while there's still, and that is very telling
Yes.
to where that corporation stands on this
Yeah.
matter, you know, on humanity basically, because this isn't like just about one group of people. This is humanity we're talking about.
So you decided to, I guess, invest in yourself and leave corporate America.
Yes, I did. I actually resigned from Xbox. I did a resignation letter.
Wow.
Because there were a lot of things happening within the contractor world.
Yeah.
Because, as I said, games contractors, and really the entertainment industry. I hear this in music industry and art and everywhere, where these contracts that you have are not for your benefit.
No.
And you've got all these young kids working in this industry, and we don't know anything about contracts, you know. So I learned through that experience, and there was just a lot of things happening that then I started talking about, and I actually reported a lot of issues to HR. And as I'm reporting these things to HR, things about, you know, racism happening within the workplace, I'm reporting nepotism happening, I'm reporting, you know, poor employee conditions. might come out. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for talking about all this, but you know
Yeah.
what are they going to do at this point? I'm gone. I'm gone. But my company put me on probation
Hmm.
for aggressive communication.
Aggressive communication.
Aggressive
That's the first. I haven't
communication.
heard that term.
Yeah.
Aggressive
Aggressive
communication.
communication style. That's what it was. They're like,
AKA telling the truth.
yeah. So I'm on. So they put me on probation, which made me
Wow.
really difficult to do my job, and I really considered it. I was like, is this worth me being here? I mean, I could be here, go through all this.
I know what you mean.
I was like, you know what? It's not worth it. And so I resigned, and I resigned in protest. I was like, I'm resigning. Made it very clear in the letter too. I was like, I'm resigning because
Yeah.
of these inequities, and I'm out. Good luck.
Wow.
You know, and then I was unemployed for a little bit, and I thought I would go look for non-contract jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I would look for full-time positions, and that was this summer of 2021, and that's when I started volunteering a whole lot for Africa Town Community Land Trust. And that's by the time that I met Elijah L. Lewis as well, and I started volunteering. I have all this time to volunteer. So early in 2021 is when I start really volunteering in spaces. I started volunteering for King County Equity Now, and I really enjoyed it because I was seeking organizations that were actually doing something about everything that was happening, because in the wake of George Floyd's murder, we learned so much and we saw so much, and so much was exposed, you know, that hadn't been exposed before. And this is stuff that organizations already know about. This is stuff that the community already has been fighting for 40 decades for, you know, so it's like, okay. And that's what I mean by that is that one specific thing. I'm not talking about the long, century long, generations long, you know, inequities and just injustice that's been happening. But I dove into that community world at that time and had all that time because I wasn't working, you know, and
you made
I
the
got
most of that free time.
That's
I got
important. All this
important.
free time. So I'm doing
no
job
excuse.
interviews and I'm just out there, and I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah, this feels right.
This feels right, you know, because I'm very passionate. I'm very energetic. I'm spending all that passion and energy on these corporations. I'm doing a really good job, and that's how I climbed up the ranks, so to speak, and got to the position I was in. But I started realizing, I'm like, wow, all of my energies I am putting into this world where it's its own enclosed ecosystem, and it's just feeding itself. There's no impact outside of the corporate world. They say there is, but you're like, no, not really. You're just feeding yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and so what about the impact to community? What about the impact to the world? So when I started doing the volunteer work and started doing community work, it's like, yeah, this feels like home to me. But yeah, and that's really when that transition started. And I did get another job. I did get a full-time job at another tech company, and I was laid off from that along with 10% of the workforce. And this was when about 40,000 tech workers were laid off that year. And when I was laid off, and that was in 2023, I think it was. Let me think. This is 2024. Wow, that was only last January. It feels like so much time has passed. So last January 2023, I was laid off from that company. And that was just, you know, their budgeting economic decision. And I'm visiting my family in California. I'm on bereavement leave at this time, actually, because we lost a lot of family members. And I actually turned to my sister one point. We were driving to my cousin's house, and I was like, what if I don't go back? You know, because I'm on bereavement leave, and I'm like thinking, you know, all this other stuff has happened, and I'm like, maybe I'll slide to DEI. Maybe I'm thinking of all these things. And I was like, well, what if I just never go back to that job? And no joke, like the next day or a few days later is when I got that your position has been eliminated, you are laid off letter. I didn't see it until 2 weeks later, but I wouldn't look at the dates. I was like, wow, you tell the universe something and the universe gives it to you.
No, the universe is always listening. And I think that is very telling that, you know, you had the insight to know this wasn't for you. You know, it's somewhere where you're at, and it's hard to be comfortable somewhere where you're not feeling you're being fulfilled. You feel like, all right, I'm here. You know, it's like just this structured, like, like a remote control. Where do you want me to go? What do you want me to say? Turn me off now, turn me on now. So you knowing that ahead of time, and then that happened, it was in the cards. It was like, Ash, you should be doing something else.
It really was, and I was feeling it for a few years actually. Me resigning, me going through all that. Like that's me
Right.
going through that transformation of breaking out of that because
Yeah.
now my mind, I think, was over time waking up because leaving
Uh-huh.
home that early, that young, going through all that, it was very just survival mode, tunnel vision. And so now I'm like coming out of that tunnel
Mhm.
vision, like, oh, wait, I don't belong here. Now that was me slowly breaking out.
Okay.
And yeah.
Huh. Where do you get your passion for being involved in all of these community efforts you've been involved with? Because see you everywhere. And like seriously, there's times I might not even get to say hi or wave across the room, across the street, but I see you everywhere. And even to the point I can't remember where we met. But
Oh, it was
I know. No. I go ahead. No,
it
you.
was a movie screening
Yes.
at
Okay.
Langston
All
Hughes.
right. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I was gonna say, wait a minute. My memory's pretty good most of the time.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. But yeah. So from there and the work you've done with the Covenant, and see you at Black Dot, see you all around. I kind of know what drives you, but where did this passion come from? Was this something that your parents instilled in you? You've always been like that? Like, where you seem like someone who genuinely wants others to win, even if that means that you just kind of gotta chill for a second. You're not gonna stomp on someone else just to get what you want. You're like, let's see how we can make this work where all parties are being heard. Like, where did this come from?
I think it's just always been in me. That's just
Mm.
the type of person that I am. I've always been different from like the groups that I'm in. I've always felt like I'm on the outside
March
looking
to the beat of
in,
your own drum.
and so I'm just kind
Yeah.
of, yeah, because I don't quite fit into any,
Mm-hmm.
I always felt I don't fit into any spaces or any groups. I'm like, I was kind of a tomboy when I was younger, so even when I was in Fiji, like I was hanging out with my brother and his friends. I wasn't really doing all the girly things. I'm
Right.
wearing his hand me downs, so I'm wearing like boys' clothes,
Yeah.
and so yeah, it's just always been like slightly a little bit different, but then also just I was just I think the experiences that I also had when I was younger, just I was bullied a lot when I was younger because I was very different. I'm an immigrant. I got this accent. I have dark skin. I eat my food. And being in American schools, that was like apparently that was weird to eat your own cultural food at school. It's a very strange thing how this country works actually.
Right. Yeah.
But I think having been on that receiving end of being the person who's not wanted, being the person who's excluded, being the person who's literally told you are not wanted, you don't belong here, go back
Yeah.
to where you came from, and just having that drilled into me at a young age, and then just the family life that I grew
Mm.
up in too. There's a lot there too, um, and then just I don't like naturally when I see other people, naturally when I'm around other people, my natural behavior and instinct is to be in equilibrium with people,
Yeah.
to be in balance, to be in. I want to see people joyful, I want to see people happy. I want to see people doing well. I want to see people succeeding. Even in the corporate world, I became a lead and a manager. I always looked out for my team. I always made sure that my team came first. There were times where I, as a lead or a manager, would be invited to like some special meeting or some gathering, but my team wasn't because contractors aren't invited, but I'm being invited. And I'd be like, well, no, because if you're not going to invite my team,
Yeah. That's right.
I'm like,
Let them know.
I'm the captain of this ship.
Yeah.
A captain isn't going anywhere without her crew. So if my crew isn't coming with me to this gathering, to this event, to this morale event, then why would I go?
Yeah.
So I've just always been like that, where we do have to do that because we all live here. You know, we all share space.
That's right. We do share space, and nice segue because do you ever thinking about do you ever think about joining? No, I don't want to put you in a certain like. I don't want to put you in a box.
Oh, you can't put me in a box. I've been in a box and I broke
Listen,
out of it.
well,
So
I know that I don't want to. I know. It's like no box can hold me.
no box can hold
No,
me.
I. What I mean by that is, I was gonna say, as far as politics go, politics.
Yeah,
Yeah,
politics.
you
I like
man?
that.
I heard that. Yeah, I heard that a couple years ago. Because you have this passion for others and this energy, you have this life experience, which is so dope. I would love to see someone like you be in those rooms, make those decisions, and say, hey, you have this agenda, but what facts are you using? I'm out here with the people. You know, I see you at these events. I see you sticking up for others and, you know, raising your hand like, hey, this isn't right. You're not just sitting back collecting a check like, oh, well, you know, they didn't disrespect me, so it's all good. You're like, no, I'm going to stick up for this person. Do you ever see yourself running for like any kind of city council or maybe mayor? Because I know there's some issues that need to be addressed in the Seattle area. The homeless problem is, it's, yeah. Do you ever see yourself in those areas?
You know, it's funny. You're not the first person who's asked me that.
It's a sign.
That's
The
so
universe,
weird,
come
right?
on. It's the universe.
But never actually never because how do I say this? I view that world the same as I view the corporate world.
Okay.
It is a system.
Hmm.
You know, and I think that, I mean, I don't envy the people who do put themselves out there and do put themselves in those positions and do run. And I think that it is very important that we do have representation in these spaces. But for myself, I feel like I already did that type of thing. Because when I was in corporate and I was trying to build more equity, build more equality amongst employees, because there is classism in corporate as well. There is the contractors and there's the full-timers, and there's definite classism there. There's classism between the people who are making certain level of socioeconomic classes as well, you know, like managers and senior level versus entry level. There is such division, and I thought I could change that from within. I was like, oh, I can change that from within. If I get high enough in position, you know, if I become senior level, if I get high enough, then I can make these changes. And just from my own personal experiences, I can't. Maybe somebody else can, but I can't see myself making that change from within the system because you get swallowed by that system. It's a tough position, right? It's a tough situation because, like, well, then what? You're just gonna walk away from it? Like, well, you can't just walk away from it either because now you're just leaving the system to do whatever it wants to do. But I think the system honestly just needs to be taken down and started over instead of trying to. There's no fixing it. I don't see it as being fixable.
And I like that you're open and honest enough to say, hey, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
Being so, I noticed that you've been doing a lot of writing and performing and using your influence that way and just being really open. Number one, being that, I dabble in writing a little bit, Yeah, I do a little something,
Oh, you do a lot.
No, oh, well, hey, whoa, this isn't about me. We'll have a show where I'll like interview myself and then I'll hop from seat to seat.
You really should.
Wouldn't that be kind of cool?
I think that would be really cool.
That's
You
a good
should do
idea.
that. Yes, because you do a lot. I'm
Well,
like, the more I learn, I'm like, what?
Hey, this isn't. Hey, well, thank you. But no, I've seen you. I mean, you're doing so much using your voice. You're writing, you're performing. Is that hard to be that open as far as when you're writing something and you're like, okay, I felt like I needed to write this. It's a form of release just for me. But then to perform in a room full of strangers and not know how something you wrote will be received, is that hard to be that open and that vulnerable, or you're just like, I don't care, I'm gonna say it, then I'm out? Like, how is that? You've been doing a lot of poetry readings, so
Yeah,
what do you think?
it's a little of both.
Yeah.
Because it started off as, here I am in a room full of strangers.
Mm.
The very first time I did open mic was at a Space Inside. Shout out to a Space Inside, because that's where I actually, it's a safe space already, you know. So when I went up there the very first time, that was last year, actually, last April.
Wait, that was your first
That was
time?
my very first time doing open mic.
But you've been writing for a while, but that was your first time.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Sharing it in that way. Yeah, I've
Gotcha.
been writing since I was 15, 16. I didn't actually start sharing.
Like 3 years ago?
Yeah,
You were
3 years ago,
15?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I didn't start sharing until really my late 30s. And then even then, not really that much. So it's only been a few years
Where you've been sharing.
since I've even been like, oh, I do poetry. I haven't even called myself a poet until the last maybe year. I forgot I was a poet for a while. Like for
You've
10
been
years I
so
didn't
out
write.
of that box. That's why.
Yeah, I was so tunnel vision, so survival mode, so in that other world that I literally forgot I wrote, and I didn't write anything for 10 years. So now I come back to it. So the very first time that I actually stood up there, I was so scared. I was like shaking. I was literally shaking up there. And people are like, "Oh, I didn't see you shaking." I was like, "Really?" Because
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know how I
felt
got
it.
words
I knew
out.
I was shaking. Yeah.
Yeah,
But you
and so
got
I
it
was
done.
just like, "Oh man, I was terrified up there, because I'm like, I don't belong up here." You know, is where I was at. Like, I don't belong up here. What am I doing? Should I even be up here? And really, it was somebody encouraged me to share my poetry, you know.
Glad they
and
did.
Yes, and this person encourages a lot of people, and this was Elijah, you know, and he really encouraged me to be like, you should shit is really good. And I was like, no, this is the stuff that I wrote just to like cope with stuff. And he's like, no, it's really good. You should be sharing this. You should be publishing this. You should be out there. And so I was out there. I was like, no, I'm going to push through this. I'm going to do it. And that first time, yeah, I'm in a room full of strangers, but also that space is such a safe space, and people are so supportive, that I just went ahead and did it. And now when I go up, now I'm on that other spectrum of, it doesn't really, I mean, it matters what people think about your writing, but not really, because it's going to land with somebody. And there's always going to be people who are like, oh yeah, that was good, that was not good. Everyone's going to have a different opinion about it. You know, everyone's going to have a different reaction to it. So I just don't worry about their reaction to it, and I just accept any reaction to it. I'm like, you know, that's how you received it.
Yeah.
That's how you're going to receive it. I'm going to do my thing. I'm going to just put it out there. Sometimes there are some pieces that I write where I'm like, ooh, is this something that I am comfortable sharing? And that's just my own, you know, everything is internal, right? Everything, all the feelings that I'm having, I'm the one creating it. So I have that control to be like, oh, I don't have to create this feeling.
Yeah.
I can just create whatever feeling I want and be that, and just go out there and be like, okay, I'm going to do it. And anything that happens, happens. And what is.
I like that. I like that. Yes. And you seem like you're having fun doing it as well. So please keep it up. I wanted you to let us know the meaning behind your name, Ashwant. Ashwant.
Yeah. So, you know, I actually have to look it up to see the full meaning.
But listen, it sounds like it sounds very like it's a line of, I don't know, high-end cookware, or like it's like, oh, this is the Ashwan line.
Well, maybe that's
It's
what I'm
like-
gonna do next.
Yeah, it's
No.
like, look, it's like, this the Ashwan line. It's like,
Yeah.
really? Yeah, these plates are $500 each. Like, nice. I won't be getting those, but yeah. But yeah, so for as long as I've known you as Ash, but I didn't realize or even think, because it's just like, hey, that's Ash, like Ashwan. Like, so you had to look it up. or you talk to your parents about it, or how'd you find out, and
Yeah.
what does that name mean?
So the name is a journey in itself, actually, because I was going by Ashwant until I was 17, and when I moved up here, that's actually when I started going by Ash. And I started going by Ash because somebody couldn't pronounce my name, and
Yeah.
so he said, "Well, I'll just call you Ash." And I was like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And to me, I'm running away, remember, and that is a lot more than just. I realize now. At that time, I didn't realize it, but having gone through everything and reflecting back on everything, I've there's a lot of running away I was doing, and I was running away from my own culture. I was embarrassed of my culture. I wanted to be American. I wanted to be easier to deal with. I
Yeah.
wanted to be easier to accept.
Yeah.
And so for me, I was like, oh, that's yes, Ash is great. I'll go by Ash. It's easy to say, it's easy to remember. When I introduce myself as Ashwant, I get double takes. I have to explain to people. I have to help them pronounce it. And there's this whole thing about it that I was like, I don't want to deal with that. I'll just be Ash because that's a much easier thing, not just for other people, but for me too. Because now I can, like, at that moment, it wasn't until I'm coming back to Ashwant that I'm realizing that at that moment, that was my final cut from my own culture.
Hmm.
That was me and that put me on a path where, to me, I was asleep. I went through a period of time where I was actually asleep to myself, and I'm just floating.
Wow.
I'm just going with the flow. I'm just following the survival path, and I'm completely out of touch with myself. I don't know my own culture. I don't know my own self. I'm not talking to my family. I don't have that connection. I know no other Fijian Indians. I'm just like, I'm American, and I'm white American. And that is a significant thing that was happening that I didn't realize how much it impacted my mentality and psychology. And I was actually married for a while too, and I was married into a white family,
Hmm.
and that I'm so disconnected from my culture at that point. I'm so disconnected from it, and I'm Ash, And so when I'm coming back to my name, Ashwant, what I'm realizing in the last few years, I've been trying to do it for a few years actually, and I'm just struggling with it. And what I'm realizing and why I'm struggling with it, because I'm just not pushing it for. I'm not like, hey,
Right.
my name is Ashwant, which is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
My name is Ashwant, and that's what I introduce myself as now. But something that I'm learning as I'm coming back to my name is I don't just have to come back to my name. My name has to come back to me, because
Hmm.
my name was gifted to me in Fiji. I was named in Fiji. That's where I was born. And my name was gifted to me in a naming ceremony. So it wasn't just
Yeah.
picked randomly. The first letter of my name comes from part of the ceremony, and I don't know the whole ceremony. I would have to ask my mom. But part of the ceremony is what they do is they open the Guru Granth, which is the last guru in Sikhism. And a guru is, a teacher, a leader. And in Sikhism and in Punjabi culture, gurus were also revolutionaries, because Sikhism came out of revolution. Because there was invaders that were coming into that region trying to convert everybody to their religion. Sikhism comes out of that, saying, no, we are, so there's a whole history
Yeah.
there as well.
Yeah.
All Punjabi women's last name is Kaur. All Punjabi men's last name is Singh. And that has significance too. That was to remove the classism. The Basically, your last name determined what caste you're a part of.
Hmm.
So doing that naming eliminates the caste system. So it's
Yeah.
like, no, we're not part of a caste. So there's a lot there.
Yeah.
And so the first letter of my name is picked from opening the Guru Granth, which is the holiest book in Sikhism and in Punjabi culture, and that's where the first letter comes from. So there is significance to how my name was, and I say gifted to me.
Yeah.
And so me cutting my name in half is a lot more than just, oh, I'm just going by a nickname. And
I
I'm
got you.
obviously not learning this and realizing this until more recently. And so that's why I'm like, I have to come back to my name. And another thing that I'm learning or realizing is I always used to be like, oh, I'm so bad at remembering names. I'm bad at remembering names.
Yeah.
I can remember your face and your whole story, but not your name.
I got you. Yeah.
Well, guess what? I'm actually better at remembering names now that I'm coming back to my name. It's me respecting my own name. If I can't respect my own name and my own culture, how am I going to go respect someone else's name and someone else's culture? And that's something I have to do to heal from certain types of traumas. And this is me just breaking my trauma cycles. And this is the cultural trauma cycle that I have to break. And, you know, I'm very grateful of other people who are coming along, because I don't expect other people to be like, oh, yeah, I'm going to come. This is my journey.
Right.
You don't have to come on my journey, you know, but I appreciate the support. I view that as support from other people of like, hey, you know, we see you, we get you, we're going to try.
Yeah.
You're not required to, but at some point I'm Ashwant. So I don't respond to Ash sometimes because I don't hear it.
I got you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. That's a beautiful name, beautiful origin behind it. And Ashwant, whatever we can do to spread the word that you're no longer Ash or Ashwant, and you'll give people a grace period, but after a while, you will start checking people right there on the street. It might end up, no, we don't. Yeah.
No, I'm actually not. I would never do that. Yeah.
But thank you for sharing that. And just, I know we could keep going for like three hours. There's so much to uncover.
I know,
but
you're asking some very deep.
Man,
some
listen.
Like digging
you know, I want you to feel
here.
home so you can, you know, because I know there's going to be someone watching and there's going to be different parts of your story that they're going to say, I can relate to. And maybe it's time for me to do some self-reflecting. So thank you so much for stopping by. And before you go, can you let people know how they can get in contact with you, what you got going on, anything in your world, what you might want to share, because everywhere you go,
there I am.
Yes.
So yes, actually there's a few things. So I run my own business too. So I run AK Project Management. It's a consulting business. You can find me on my website, akprojectmanagement.com, AK Project Management on Instagram. My poetry Instagram is Ashwant's Poetry, ASHWANTS Poetry. I actually have a couple of things that I do want to share. So we've got the NIA Festival coming up. This is the second annual. This is being organized and run by a few people, led by Prince Reese. And there's actually going to be a parade this year if you want to volunteer, if you want to vend. All of these are open. So get in touch with Skyway Nia Festival at gmail.com or Nia Festival Northwest on social media. And there's so much that I'm forgetting now. A few
It's
of the things.
But
Tap in with the Covenant, the-covenant.org. This is community building community. We stand by 17 principles of building and supporting community and standing up for each other and creating safety and security for all of us. And I'm sure I missed a couple.
It's all right. Yes. They can play it back, or they can reach out to you and send you a message, say, I think you might have said something about this, or what do you have going on? So please, I advise everyone to check out her Instagram. Just send her a message, say, hey, I like what you were talking about. Thank you so much. And I would like to tell you guys out there, like I always say, you got to step your game up. I got this nice gift. Like I say, she watches the show. I do love gifts. So it's going to be awesome to help filter the room. And thank you so much, Ash. We'll have to do this again.
Yes.
And I want to thank you guys again for watching the best show online. It's because you say it's the best, so I agree. Thank you for watching. And remember, it's important to take care of others, but please make sure you take time to take care of yourself. Until next time, stay connected. Peace.